These black teenagers below were accused of unaliving a white woman in Forsyth County, Georgia in 1912. Within 3 weeks of that happening, the entire black population of Forsyth County ceased to exist. The only reason we know about this is because in 1987, a news camera crew decided to go to the most racist county in America that boasted that a black person hasn't lived there in 75 years. Now they want to be a model of love. Let's get started and learn something new.
They want to keep it that way.
We haven't had none up here since the first of the century, and I don't think we've done okay without them, and I don't believe we need them up here now.
All these people out here marching today, the black people and the white black people too, all they up here for is start trouble. And they come to the right place to get it.
It's mind-boggling to see that things like this still exist in America. But hey, you got all kind of people.
People like them, they look like me and my friends, and I think someday, we're going to be able to reach people like that too.
Forsyth County is only about 30 miles away from Atlanta, and up until the 1990s, the census showed that only 14 black people lived in the entire county. But in 1912, over 1,000 black people lived there. In September of 1912, an 18-year-old white woman named Mae Crow was brutally harmed and left unconscious in the woods. She eventually unalived from her injuries, and 3 young black men, teenagers, the only black people in that part of the county at that time, were accused of unaliving her with little evidence other than a coerced confession from one of them. Now, one of the men was 24 years old, and his name was Rob Edwards, and he didn't even make it to trial because a mob came into his jail cell, dragged him out, hitched him to the back of a wagon, and we know the end of that. And then the other 2 black teens, Ernest Knox, who was 16, and Oscar Daniel, who was 18, were also unalived after one-day trial. The other black residents of the county were threatened if they did not leave, the same thing would happen to them. And within 3 weeks, the entire black population of Forsyth County ceased to exist. Now, fast forward to 1968, it didn't stop there. A group of black children and their counselors went camping at Lake Lanier in Forsyth in 1968. After sundown, a group of white men surrounded them, started threatening them, and they had to leave. And fast forward to 1980, a black firefighter was unalived in the head after nightfall by 2 white men while attending a company picnic. A lot of this history was buried in newspaper clippings until a civil rights march was met by a Klan march in 1987. And then that same year, Oprah Winfrey brought national attention to the area, highlighting the county where no black person had lived for 75 years.
Keep Forsyth and Dawson County white.
Let him speak. Please let him speak. He has the right to speak.
Okay, the news media is covered up. There were thousands of white people that came out to join our white people's protest. This is the largest white people's...
Fast forward to 2016, a former Forsyth County resident, Patrick Phillips, he authored a book that talks about the 1912 expulsion and how those 3 black men were unalived and how no one was ever held accountable. Fast forward to 2024, Forsyth County still has a black population of less than 5%. Now, a group of pastors who are black and white decided to establish a college scholarship program in 2022 for descendants of black families who were violently expelled 110 years before. Now, the founders are clear that the scholarships are not reparations, a word many in the community would consider divisive, but instead an act of love, an acknowledgement of past harms, and the hopes of fostering a positive path forward. Residents and leaders in Forsyth County say over the years it's become more diverse, and they erected an historical marker in 2021 acknowledging the unalivings that happened in 1912. Now, Patrick Phillips, the author of that 2016 book, Blood at the Root, had this to say: "There is still so much that has been left undone, like teaching the county's real history to local students and making sure that the next generation of Forsyth residents understand what once happened in the place they call home. But above all, there has been no formal public apology and no attempt to repair the economic harm done to those families whose fortunes were forever changed in 1912. I hope you learned something new."